Hello and welcome to Cardio Live. I'm James Baggett, founder of Cardio Magazine, and today on the show I'm talking to Perry's Managing Director, Darren Ardron. Darren, good afternoon.
Afternoon, James.
Thank you very much for joining us, Darren. So firstly, a quick introduction for Darren. He's been with Perry for 32 years, starting with the group as sales executive for MG Rover back in 1987, and he's been managing director for the last 5. The family-owned group represents 11 brands, including Vauxhall, Ford, Renault and Peugeot, among others, and has 51 facilities in Yorkshire, the North West, home counties and Kent. Turnover was 600 million in 2019, but I'll let Darren tell us a little bit more. Darren, give us a little bit of background about about Perry's.
Okay, so yeah, thanks, James. As you say, family-owned group. I started with it, as you've said, in 1987. Very different then. It was a PLC in those days. And then in 2001, the company went through a management buyout with a guy called Paul Millard. Paul very sadly passed away the year after that. His wife now, Denise, is the major shareholder. And, you know, since then it's grown, it's developed. We're sort of more or less national now across the UK, and a great place to be, if I'm honest with you.
And you've obviously already had a very glittering career with Perry's. That's quite some time to stay with one firm. Talk me about what got you into car sales in the first place.
Oh, I mean, everybody always says it, don't they? I was always interested in it. I was interested in cars as a child. I think I actually bought my first car at 16. When I left school, I trained as an apprentice technician. So I'd always had an interest, and yeah, this opportunity came along in 1987, and I just took it and loved it, and I've never looked back since.
So what was the first car you sold back then?
The first car I actually sold was a Metro automatic.
What a classic.
Yeah, what a classic. Yeah, in a metallic gold it was. And then the one after that was an MG Maestro, if you remember those.
Of course.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember the first car like it was yesterday.
Amazing. So let's move on to the topical news of the moment. Yesterday we broke the story that the government is happy for dealers to sell online and deliver those cars to people's homes. It's the first time we've actually had some clarification on that after we've been chasing them for many days. It's something that's been incredibly popular on our website. What does that news mean to you? Is that going to change the way you do business?
I think at this moment in time, James, I think there's still too much uncertainty around it. You know, I saw the news break last night. Obviously, we've had lots of conversations with manufacturers in the last few days. And I just think I think it's still a little bit too early to take that jump yet. I would be hugely concerned about the welfare of our staff. Yes, I've read all the information around it, and but at this moment in time, I'm a bit more sceptical about it being ready to go just yet.
And this is the issue, isn't it? Still, the industry is desperate to get back to work. Dealers really want to start working again. However, there is still a very serious health and safety concern, and you're going to have to, if you do deliver these cars to customers' homes, you're going to have to ask staff to do that.
Yeah, and that's my big, you know, moral dilemma, I guess. It's you know, we where we are at the minute in this virus, and we're nowhere near the end of it, James, yet. And I just think, for the sake of another 2 to 3 weeks, I think, quite frankly, I think we need to we just need to sweat this one out. And it's not, for me, it's not quite the right time to do it yet.
So, how would you like to see the industry go back to work?
Is what, James? Sorry.
How would you like to see the industry go back to work? I mean, would it be more of a click and collect style model?
Yeah, I think we've got to look at that. I mean, I think the one thing this whole lockdown has done for us is that the one thing you never get any time to do in this role is you never get any time to sit back and think. And by being off for 4 weeks, it's allowed us that opportunity to do that. And I think we've all had to expedite some of our decisions. You know, we didn't have a click online facility. We should have that by this week. And I guess it's forced us to do these sort of things, really. So I think there'll be an element of that coming back. But I also think, you know, from an industry point of view, we'll come back looking quite different in lots of ways, quite frankly.
So what sort of changes are you planning to make in your dealerships? I mean, have you got plans for PPE, etc.?
Yeah, we've done all that. We've ordered all the PPE. We're quite fortunate. We've got a big parts hub in West Yorkshire, and to be fair to the team up there, they've done a great job. They got on this early. We've ordered about 3 months worth of supply. That's physically with us now in stock. So I've done a few staff calls in the last few days, and said to all staff when they return to work, whatever date that is, my view at the minute is it will still be back end of May, early June. Then all the staff will have all the protective equipment that they need at that point.
So what sort of things are you considering when it comes to PPE?
So things like gloves, things like masks, things like goggles. The big one is perspex screens. We've already formulated that process now. So we've actually got our hands on around 300 protective screens. So we will be getting all of our management team in at least 3 days before the staff turn up to work. They will get all these screens fitted. They'll ensure all the sites are cleaned and ready for business. So when staff do arrive, which I think will also be in a phased process, I have to say, I don't think it'll be overnight, they'll be ready to go. And we've made that assurance to staff as well.
Where are you going to be fitting those perspex screens? And is it service areas or everywhere where there's a touch?
Yeah, predominantly, James, service receptions, which is probably the obvious one. But also we've got things like, we've got a very big call centre in the northwest of England, and we employ 50 people in there. So we probably have to fit them in the call centre as well. We will make enough so that we have them on sales execs' desks if needed. But the ones we're making are actually freestanding, so you can actually move them around. And but we'll put them wherever we have to put them, quite frankly.
Do you think you're going to end up with a shift pattern of your staff coming back to work and a phased different days of staff coming in?
I do, absolutely. I think I've already sort of spoke to quite a few staff on calls over the last few days and said it's going to be very different. It's going to feel very different. It's going to look very different. If these social guidelines are what we think they could be, then we will have to operate shift systems, because quite frankly, you can't have 10 technicians in a workshop stood next to one another. You can't have people in accounts offices. So I think we're going to have to look at shift systems for technicians. I also think we're going to have to look at rotas as well across different parts of the business.
There's going to be a huge change to how you've done this.
Massive change.
So talk me back to what was going through your head when the lockdown began.
Oh goodness, a very muddled head, I think, that day. I think we all knew that something was going to happen. I guess until it actually happens, it's always going to come as a shock. I have to say, though, huge credit to our team. We, as a senior team, we've worked tirelessly on this, and I'm really proud of what we've all done, because we've pulled together. We closed the sales operations on the Wednesday, which I think was the 25th. And that was literally, the decision was made that morning. We closed everything on the 25th. The staff did a great job of getting as many cars delivered as they could. And then we closed our after sales operations on Friday the 27th. But what we then did is we then reopened 5 critical centres on Monday the 30th. And we're still operating now with 1 centre per region, quite frankly, that is handling any critical repair jobs. And today, looking at this morning's numbers, we've done about 350 jobs out of those businesses. Not big jobs, lots of little things, punctures. We've had some great feedback from customers where we've helped them out. Engine warning lights coming on, put people into courtesy cars where we can't do repairs. So we did that. We opened up these call centres. We've kept a team of people on looking after things like accounts, a limited staff on marketing, a full staff on HR, because clearly that is an incredibly busy department at the minute. We kept the accounts functions open to produce the March accounts, to sort purchase ledger and sales ledger out. Wages department, and again, credit due to them. What a complex operation that was, with furlough pay. And then call centre, we also kept a call centre open as well. And between the staff up there, we've put 8 people on home leave. They've handled over 12,000 calls since lockdown on that. So I have to say, hugely proud of the team, because we've never ever trained for anything like this. And, when everybody pulls in the same direction, it's a really powerful force.
It was certainly a shock to the system for many, and it's probably going to change the way that we do business for a long period of time. At the moment, are you managing to do any sales activity at all?
Yeah, we're doing a few. We've clearly kept websites open. We've kept classifieds out there. It's not massive, if I'm honest with you. We've taken a few deposits. But what we have done is we've built a really good bank up of contacts for when we come back. We've got over 1,000 leads now that customers have said to us, we don't want to do anything now, but we'll be in contact when you get back. And all those leads are held at the call centre. Where customers have been adamant that they've wanted to purchase a car, then obviously we've taken a deposit on that one. But there's a good bank of leads for when we get back.
Talk to me about how your attitude has changed over these last few weeks. I mean, if you're anything like me, it was a massive shock to the system when it all happened and the world was collapsing around me. But I'm starting to feel more positive in the last few days, especially as news comes out like you did yesterday. What about yourself? Are you feeling any more positive than you were?
Yeah, I am. I think the one thing about this industry is we go through all sorts of trials and tribulations. And the one thing about this industry, and I've certainly learned in this job, is we're incredibly resilient. We're incredibly resilient to change. And I think in a way, we'll come back a bit positive. Maybe not straight away. I think it'll be a slightly slower burn to get things up and running because we don't know what people's financial situation is going to be. But I think the industry will bounce back from this. The big thing for me is, you don't get any time in these roles really to sit back and think. It's all full on 100 miles an hour. And by doing what we've done, it's allowed us to take a deeper look at some of our businesses. And I think in a way, this could be the sort of force that was needed to change some things moving forward, and only change them for the better.
I mean, it's certainly given a lot of people a lot of enforced time at home to sit back and actually think about their businesses, and I'm sure it's going to change hugely off the back of it. On that subject, I mean, what do you think you will implement along those lines? I mean, what are your thoughts on online car sales, for example?
I think there's a huge opportunity there. As I said earlier, we didn't have a reserve online button on the internet. All of a sudden now we'll get one. We'll be able to take deposits online next week. That'll be really interesting to see if people jump on the bandwagon of that. So I think there's a huge opportunity there, and it's given us that bit of time to get ready for it. Do
you think the government's response to this crisis has been good enough?
I think it depends who you listen to. There was an interview yesterday with Tony Blair, and I think he said it didn't matter which government you'd got in place, it was always going to be a challenge for anybody to do with this. It's a massive task they've had to deal with, and I guess it's like anything, there'll always be criticism at the end of it. I think they've done a fair job in very, very challenging circumstances for this.
I mean, it's clearly been very, very difficult for everybody, especially those leading the country. I mean, when it comes to the steps they've put in place to help businesses, I take it you've taken advantage of that furlough scheme. I mean, was that a relief when that came up?
It was a huge relief, yeah. I mean, we've got just over 1,500 staff. We had to put the majority of them on furlough leave, which I know is incredibly difficult for them to deal with. I mean, it's been an absolute lifesaver for the industry. We work on a very, very marginal business anyway, and we will all incur, I'm sure, huge losses by being closed. So that really has helped.
How was business up until the point that this really took hold?
It was going all right. We had a good January. February was okay. March was looking quite strong with certain brands. But it's like anything in this job, the whole of this industry comes together in usually the last week of a quarter. And of course, that was the bit we lost. So it's sad really, because everybody puts loads of effort in to get into where you get in March, and then the rug's pulled from under your feet. But we'll just have to catch it back. For the people that didn't buy in March, they'll need to come and buy in another month, and we just need to be there to catch them.
Do you think that demand is still going to be there?
I do. I think it'll be, my honest view is that the new car side of it might be a bit more of a challenge. just because, but there's a lot of people at the end of contracts and PCPs, and I suspect the manufacturers will put some form of incentive in to help those people. I honestly think used cars will be strong. I think there'll be a good desire for used cars out there. And by the very nature of the fact that we've lost 2 months in our after sales departments, you know, I know as a group, we've got 3,000 service plan customers that were booked in for services that they've prepaid for in April and May. So we've got to get those back, and quite rightly so. So we've just got to squeeze it into 2 months less. So I wouldn't be surprised if, and it may be a little bit false because it's over less of a period, that after sales doesn't bounce back from this quite strong.
How long do you think it's going to take you to recover to the position you were in back in February, March time, beginning of March time?
I think it could be 12 months. I think one of the big things for me on this is when you close down a group the size of ours, and you know, we're by no means one of the largest, you sort of do a forensic look at everything in your group. And by doing that, we've looked at, you know, clearly we've looked at accounts, we've taken costs out where we've had to take costs out. And my brief to the team is just be absolutely sure that where possible, we don't put all that cost back in, because, you know, it is a very costly business running a motor group, and it's been quite a fascinating exercise. So I think there's responsibility from both manufacturers and dealers for a joint effort on this. And you know, I appreciate manufacturers are going to have a very difficult startup from this as well, but I think there's going to have to be compromises on both sides.
What about the manufacturers' support during this time? You represent, I think we said 11 brands, including Ford, Transit. How have they been when it comes to looking after you?
They've been really good. I mean, I've had calls with one of them this morning. I've got a call with another one tomorrow. They've been in constant contact. I think, you know, the manufacturers have done exactly what they've had to do on this. We have to remember this is really difficult for them too. But I can't knock the support of manufacturers at all.
What are your thoughts on new car supply? What are those manufacturers telling you when it comes to getting hold of metal to sell?
I actually think there'll be adequate supply out there on the basis of the March market was back 40%. You know, there's no April. I think if you look at the stats this morning, the new car market's down 98% in April. So there was bound to be stock en route. There was bound to be stock in transit between, you know, foreign countries and the UK. So I think there will be adequate stock out there. There could be, if the job was to pick up, there could be a little bit of a bump in the road later down the track if with manufacturing plants being closed. But I wouldn't be over worried about the amount of new car stock out there.
Yeah, as clearly April's stock was probably well on its way here, well before this happened. Just a quick question that's just come in here online from Colin. He says, could I ask you about your OEM partners and how they're preparing you during this time for the launch of electric cars?
If I'm honest with you, there hasn't been an awful lot of conversation with them on the electric thing. I think they've probably had probably far bigger issues to deal with in this. So, you know, to Colin, we've heard very little on it. It's probably been a bit of a welcome distraction, to be honest with you, because it was all around CO2 and targets and LEV targets prior to this lockdown. So unsure really what will happen there, you know, whether they'll stick to all the dates and guidelines. It's don't know really.
Have you been warned of any delays to new car launches that you were expecting? We were chatting yesterday to Kia, and they said that they've had to amend their plan of new cars coming up because of what's happened. Have you heard the same from other manufacturers?
No, we haven't heard anything, but if I was a betting man, I would say that that's likely. You know, some of the brands we represent had got new models due at the end of this year, and the very nature of the fact that the plants have closed for 2 months, you can only expect some of those getting delayed a little bit.
What are your thoughts on finance agreements? We reported earlier this week that Black Horse had given 60,000 payment holidays already, and that lenders were being inundated with calls for help. Have you seen that sort of help required to your customers via your call centre?
Yeah, we have, and one of the team we kept on was our Group F&I director, and I speak to him most days. And you know, probably in the initial stages, the majority of the enquiries he was getting was around that. And, you know, I've been very open with our staff and I've said, you know, you quite frankly should take advantage of some of these situations while they're available to you. I think it'll also create good loyalty as well. You know, if finance partners are seen to be doing things in difficult times, I think it'll create great loyalty for long term.
By advantage, do you mean payment holidays, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's a difficult time when somebody's on furlough leave, although, you know, you probably don't spend anything like you would when you're working. But it's a difficult time and it's a worrying time. So I think any of these areas that manufacturers and banks will help should be taken.
What are your thoughts on used car prices? I know we touched on it a little bit earlier. I'm just wondering whether you think this is going to increase them or whether they're going to be steady.
For certain, I think they'll be steady. Again, we've got to think about what happened at the end of March. There wasn't that big influx of part exchanges. So by the very nature that April and May will be quieter than March, there could become a bit of a shortage. You know, and I'm hoping that prices remain steady because, of course, all of us came out of the end of March with probably a little bit too much used car stock. And the last thing we wanted to see was some of the fluctuations in values as we saw this time last year. So for me, I think they'll stay steady and I think used cars will be good.
With 51 sites around the UK, you've clearly got a hell of a lot of stock out there. What are you doing to look after that? I mean, how are you managing to keep on top of that stock?
A lot of it is, you're right, it's out there. On one or two of our sites, we've had to keep sort of valeting going. We've got a couple of sites down by the coast, and you can imagine the issues they face down there. So we've had to keep bits going in there. We're quite fortunate on some of the other businesses in that a lot of the real estate Perry's has got is quite large. And where possible, we put as many cars as we possibly could under cover. So some of our big West Yorkshire sites, physically isn't a car on display. Everything's been put into warehousing or into the workshops. So we've been quite fortunate on that, but we are going to have issues when we come back. We're going to have batteries that are flat and, you know, we're going to have tyres that are flat. And one of my plans on the startup, whenever that is that our management team will probably start 3 or 4 days before the staff start. And that will be part of their objective, to just go around and ensure that when the staff start, all these little niggly things are taken care of.
Because we all know cars don't like sitting around doing nothing.
No, they don't. No, they don't. There'll be flat batteries and things like that. So, yeah, we have a plan to deal with that.
What do you think will radically change for car dealers off the back of this crisis?
As I said earlier, James, I think we'll all have to take a real forensic look at our businesses. We'll have to look at the cost base. I think we'll have to look at all of our sites. You know, I'm sure every motor group in the UK has some difficult sites, and we may well have some difficult decisions to make around those sites. And then I think it's some of our working patterns. You know, we've talked as a group for a long time now about shift systems for technicians, but we've never really implemented it. And it's probably because it was a bit on the hard to-do list. This sort of thing might force that change. And, you know, I said it before, I think this is the sort of shock that the industry might need to recalibrate a little bit.
Are you planning for quite a big marketing push when this all lifts?
Yeah, we've got all that laid out. We'll be certainly promoting used cars very heavily. We'll be promoting service and some of the items we do around service, and particularly about the safety side of it. You know, people are going to be concerned. Who's been in my car? What are you doing to sanitize it? So we're focusing a lot of our marketing around there. I suspect from a manufacturer point of view, the manufacturers will be pushing it hard. So from a new car point of view, I'm hoping I can ride on the back of that a little bit and put more of our efforts into the other areas short term.
Would you like to see a government stimulus for the car industry to help kickstart things?
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I mean, if you go back to scrappage, you know, what seemed like a long time ago now, that was after a particularly difficult market, wasn't it? And it bounced back. I guess the reality is the government have spent a lot of money on saving the economy now. And if they do something like with the motor trade, then there'll be lots of other sectors that are asking for handouts as well. So I suspect they won't, but it would be nice to see something.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There's going to be everybody who's going cap in hand to the government. The one thing to point out about the scrappage scheme that was the fact that it was actually revenue generating when they took in the VAT receipt. So for the car industry, it can actually work.
It can work. I mean, you know, absolutely. The new car market fuels a lot of VAT. And you know, we're somehow going to have to pay back for this crisis. We have to remember that all this bailout isn't going to come for free. So maybe they could look to stimulate the market. But as I say, I think there'll be a lot of other people in the queue as well.
Yeah, let's hope that there is something out there up their sleeves to help the industry out. When it comes to positives to take from this, then Darren, what would yours be?
I think teamwork. I honestly can't praise the team enough for what's happened in this crisis. You know, everybody's worked tirelessly on it. We speak most days. They've all been given tasks. We're all working to those tasks. So I think it's really brought the team. We were close anyway, but I think it's brought it even closer. And as I say, I think, you know, it's a positive and a negative really, but I think it will force us to look at all areas of our business and take a deep, hard look.
And finally, I'll give you an opportunity. I know you sort of mentioned it there, but have you got a message that you'd like to give to your staff?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a call with some of them this morning, some of them yesterday. You know, I've seen them on Zoom. Some of them are looking, you know, particularly fed up being at home. But you know, a million thanks from the whole board for all you've done. You've stuck at it, and I would just say stick at it a little bit longer, because I think it's vital that we do stick to these government guidelines and we come through this crisis, because the motor trade is very resilient, and we will come out of it. I've no doubt about it.
Darren, I really wish you the best of luck with the future, and a huge thank you for giving up your time today. If you'd like to get involved in Car Dealer Lives like this one, you can email me, james@blackbullmedia.co.uk. You can find me on Twitter @CarDealerEd, or on LinkedIn. Send me a message there. Tomorrow, I'm going to be chatting to Peter Vardy at midday. If you've got any questions for him, please feel free to send them in advance, or you could submit them during the live broadcast. Next week, I've got lots of great guests lined up, including Vine's BMW boss, Sean Kelly, Alexander Prestige, Andrew North, and the Autocar editorial team, giving their take on the industry. If you've got any questions for any of those guys, please drop them over to me. If you haven't already, please download the Car Dealer magazine latest issue. We've digitised our business, including the magazine. You can read it completely free of charge. It's on the issue app, or look on our website and you can find the links to download it there. I've also put a full schedule of Car Dealer Lives on our website. Scroll down a little bit on the homepage and you'll find it on cardealermagazine.co.uk. We'll come back every weekday for our next live broadcast at midday. Which just leaves me to say another huge thank you for Darren for joining me, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.